Namaste, friends. I'm Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar. I welcome you on behalf of United Consciousness, Project Self Incorporation USA, and Bharat. Few days back, a 6-year-old child, after watching news, told me that we are taught light in the school, but why there is darkness in the world? We are taught peace in the school, but why there is war in the world? We are taught harmony in the school, but why there is struggle in the world? We are taught smile in the school, but why there is tears in the world? I really have no answer to that innocent question of a small child. It made me think that the evolution of economic man, which led to industrialization, and then the evolution of a social man led to reformation in the societies. Culmination of rational man led to renaissance in the world. Evolution of a global man which led to globalization. By the virtue of all these, today we are living in an industrialized, globalized world, which is seeing extreme exploitation of resources and intense competitions at all the fronts. That's why you see that the United Nations total budget for disarmament is $0.69 billion, whereas the total defense budget of the world is $1,747 billion, which is 2,500 times more than the total disarmament budget of United Nations. 28 million soldiers are ready to attack each other on a single political decision. So certainly United Nations alone cannot make a peaceful, harmonized world. Everyone, every step counts. The time has come for the evolution of spiritual man. Theory of evolution talks about the theory of common descent. We all come from the same source. Theory of Big Bang also mentioned about our origin from the same point. Quantum physics talks about singularity. The time has come that the spiritual man declares that we are united in consciousness. We should have united anthems, united citizenship, united education. To create a united conscious world. United Consciousness is a global organization which operates in all 6 continents of the world with the mission of one consciousness, one being, so that we can see beyond limited divides of identities. 14 limited identities, orthodoxy of religion, intolerant thoughts, wealth, class, division on the basis of region, fanatic nationalism, status, species. When habitat considered themselves the master of the habitation, racism, casteism, divides on the basis of color, gender and sex orientation. To establish divine beyond these divisive identities, United Consciousness is working for creation of the world's first integrated manual of humanity. Another project is creation of the manual of human happiness. United Consciousness is also working for UC Youth. UC Global Youth will work for identifying and incubating global talents from all 6 continents, youth talent, who will act as a world parliament of youth for creating a consciousness, united consciousness world. In the same stream, we celebrate every year United Consciousness Conclave. UCC 2022 has a theme, One Consciousness, One Being, which is in line with the theme of G20, One Earth, One Family, One Future. We aim to create a world which has Maitri, which focuses on oneness. Karuna, when I feel your pain, you feel my pain. Mudita, when I am delighted in your joy, you smile in my joy. Upeksha, when we ignore differences and see divinity in each other. United Consciousness Conclave invites all of you on this 17th and 18th of December to sit back, relax, and enjoy this global assembly of life coaches, spiritual masters, practitioners, yoga sadhakas, dance and art performers who come together from different parts of the globe, all 6 continents, to speak the common language of oneness. I also would like to thank Project Self Incorporation USA and Bharat, European Yoga Federation, Yoga Vidya Germany, Siddhashram Turkey, Yoga Lam Russia, Yogismo International South America, Spiritual Council in Africa, AYT Australia, for have contributed in making this event a success. Let's together declare united consciousness so that we can answer the next generation, and with an affirmation that yes, in our world there is light, peace, harmony, and smiles. Thank you very much.
Namaste all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are watching this event. I welcome you all on this grand event of United Consciousness Conclave 2022, where we will be having a list of global speakers coming to this platform and and music performers talking about spirituality and different topics connected with it, actually. So, why United Consciousness and why this kind of organization is needed? I just want to take few seconds and talk about it. As you know, we have or we are basically about 8 billion people on this planet, and so many different religions are there, so many different cultures are there, so many different ways of living across the planet. But one thing which is common um, among all of us is one being and one consciousness. And this is exactly what or where United Consciousness is coming and playing their part. And this is where we bring different spiritual leaders, dance and music performers to talk and to perform about what is oneness. And this is so important um, in this human life that we have got. And I'm going to quote one important quote from French philosopher Perry de Chardin, where he says, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings having the human experience." And this is exactly what we need to understand, because sometimes we feel that, okay, we are just going to have the experience of spirituality just for the sake of, because everyone or some of the philosophers are saying. No, we came here to experience the human life. And this exactly the event that we I mean, like, a lot of speakers are going to talk about it. And as you know, that the current situation or the current challenges that we are having across the globe, whether it is a pandemic or geopolitical situations, our goal is to keep ourselves focused on this spiritual journey and do good for humanity, because this is what we are here for. um, Martin Luther King uh, once he said that we must learn to live together as brothers, or we perish ourselves as fools. And such a great line that he said, that if we are not going to live together as a brother, then this is what the current situation that we are seeing across the globe, for the geopolitical situation that we are seeing, because ego comes into the picture here. And to that effect, actually, I we this next 3 hours is going to be packed with so many speakers coming and talking about that. I just want to give you a glimpse on that. We will be starting our session with Swami Tatwanandaji from USA. He's going to talk about dealing with the depression. And then this is very, very important topic in current, especially what happened in last 2 years, where we are seeing high numbers of depression across the globe, actually. Then we will be having Yogi Baba from Turkey. He's going to talk about spirituality and optimism. We will also be having a great speaker, Dr. Vibhuti Jha from USA, who is going to talk about spirituality and work-life balance, which is again a very important topic to discuss in the situations that we are going through, actually. Then we will have a Dr. Ashish Gadekar from Mauritius talking about the spirituality and humanity. Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar, very well-known personality, he's going to talk about spirituality and law of karma. And there will be a panel discussion as well about open mindedness, which will be having different speakers from Dr. Gabriel from Bolivia, Dr. Sheena Patel from Cabo Verde, and then we will be having Stephen Inovek from Montegoro and Cobus from Mr. Cobus from Romania. We will also be having Dr. Valdemir Prado from Mexico, who is going to talk about spirituality and self-control, and some of the music events as well. So I would like to end my topic by saying that there is a quote from Buddha: just as a little candle cannot burn without fire, we a man cannot live without spiritual life. So and what better way it could be to end our year 2022 by listening these great speakers and start a fresh new year 2023 with making some positive change in our life to bring the peace and harmony around the world and within us. So I welcome you all for this grand event of United Consciousness Conclave 2022, and enjoy this event for next 3 hours. Thank you.
I feel privileged in welcoming our next guest, who is the enlightened soul illuminating his followers. He is Swami Tatwamayanandaji. Swamiji is currently the minister in charge of the Vedanta Society of North California, San Francisco. He served in various centers of the Ramakrishna Order in India as an editor, publisher, and teacher of Sanskrit, Advaitic texts such as Shri Shankaracharya's commentaries on Prasthanatraya and Indian philosophy at the Training Center in Balur Math, the headquarters of Ramakrishna Mission in India, before coming to United States. He had traditional training in Hindu scriptures, Sanskrit and Vedic literatures from his early days. Swamiji has received traditional education in Sanskrit and Vedantic scriptures and is frequently invited for lectures on yoga, Vedanta and traditional Hindu scriptures. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Swami Tatwamayanandaji.
Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha Sudhi smriti purananam alayam karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. I welcome you to United Consciousness Conclave 2022, organized by the United Consciousness Global. So the subject before me is very interesting and also very relevant to our times, spirituality in dealing with depression. Now, if you look at the overall situation today in this world, we are forced to admit that problems of the mind cannot be resolved at the level of mind. Problems of the mind can be resolved only at a higher level than the mind, at the level of the spirit. So, how to confront this problem of depression, anxiety, worries, unnecessary worries that have become a part of the modern competitive world, especially in this IT age when youngsters have to work 15 hours, 16 hours a day, and job insecurity is a problem, and there are innumerable problems confronting us in today's conditions which make our mind anxious and worried. Now, one important thing is when we become worried about something, when we become depressed about something which is really irrational, there is no real solution. I shall try to make this clear. Suppose we have a physically visible problem in front of us, like jobs insecurity or lack of money, then the solution, the remedy is quite tangible. It is obvious. But there are many people who become worried, who become depressed, even if there is no obvious reason for them to become depressed or worried. For example, people who are well off, who are quite wealthy, who are well employed, having good jobs, enough money, and apparently there is no problem, still they become worried about something. This sort of problem is much more serious and much more lethal, much more difficult to confront and remedy than the problems related to unemployment, poverty, or illiteracy and things like that. So this problem can be confronted only at the spiritual level. That's why the definition in our Ayurvedic tradition, the definition of a healthy mind is like this: Prasannatmendriya manaha sustha itya vidhiyade. So who is a healthy minded person? Or what's the nature of a healthy mind? Prasannatmendriya manaha. When our mind, our senses, our emotions, feelings and thoughts are all in a state of perfect equilibrium, such a state of mind is called a healthy mind. And such a mind becomes a friend, such a mind becomes a guide, such a mind becomes a reliable companion for all of us. This mind is actually what helps us in times of crisis. In our Vedantic tradition, and also in yoga tradition, we believe in the ideal of karma yoga. Any kind of positive action, good or positive action, will be physical actions. When we do something noble without a selfish purpose for the good of others and also for our good, when we speak words which are full of compassion and love and understanding with people around us, and also when we try to feed our mind with good thoughts by reading good books, listening to good conversations, and making a good deposit of healthy spiritual resources in our mental system, that creates, that generates a positive energy. This can help us to confront many of the problems we are facing today. To have a higher ideal, to have something higher and noble to work for itself becomes a great help. Because when we have an ideal in front of us, it helps us to conserve our energy, to organize and focus our energies, our resources, our mental and emotional resources in one good direction. Not only that, it helps us also in confronting problems in a more healthy manner. It is said that in Patanjali Yoga Sutras that Kriya Yoga is a great help. Kriya Yoga is defined by Patanjali Patanjali as Tapaswadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhananani Kriya Yoga. Tapa Swadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhananani Kriya Yoga. So what is Kriya Yoga? Austerity, and then feeding our mind with good thoughts by reading good book, and also the practice of karma yoga. Any unselfish action, any noble action done as an act of worship with a sense of sanctity and sacredness can generate spiritual energies, spiritual assets in our mental system. In fact, it is called in our tradition called yajna, yajno vai sreshtatamam karma. This is one of the definitions given to the word yajna in our Vedic tradition. Any kind of noble activity is yajna. It becomes noble because when we do something with a sense of sanctity and sacredness and with a sense of total dedication and without any selfish purpose, that action becomes a kind of worship. So work itself can be done as an act of worship, and eventually the whole life can become an act of worship. And this attitude, of course, can be helpful only at the beginning of people suffering from depression. In advanced stage of depression, of course, many of these ideas may not be easy to work out. But to avoid a situation where people become depressed and worried without any real cause, these great ideas can be a great help. And also, Ishvara Pranidhana is mentioned. Ishvara Pranidhana actually means resignation to God. When we can think of one almighty, all-pervading, immanent, transcendental spiritual principle, that's something all-pervading, that is present in everyone, that helps us to look upon entire humanity as one spiritual family. And when we have any difficulty, when we confront problems, that problem also can be considered to be a sign of God's grace. There's an important verse in the Hindu tradition. Yasya anugrahamichami tasya vittam haramyakam bandhavaischa viyogena brisham bhavati dukkhita tena dukkhena samtaptu yadi mam na parityajet tam prasadam karishyami devairabi sudurlabham. When we have a friend in the form of a healthy mind, when our own mind becomes healthy and friendly with us, then it is possible for us to do everything as an act of worship to God. It is said in this particular verse, God says that those whom I want to bless, I would remove all the obstacles from his path. All the obstacles to spiritual path will be removed. So suppose a wealthy man becomes too egoistic and proud of his wealth will be removed by God, so that his road to spiritual salvation will be left open. Yasya anugrahamichami tasya vittam haramyaham bandhavaischa viyogena brisham bhavati dukkhitaka. If a person becomes too proud of his reputation, his power over people, his community, because of his leadership skills, then what happens? He will be isolated from his own people. So still, in spite of all these difficulties, if such a person sticks to his devotion, then he will lifted, he will be elevated to such a position that even Devas will be jealous of him. Now, what it means is, Ishvara Pranidhana also can be an important path to solve this problem of depression. And not only that, if we don't have a spiritual ideal to follow, our mind will create a lot of problems. Our mind becomes our worst enemy. We cannot think of a more tragic situation than a situation where our own mind becomes our own enemy. Even people who are highly accomplished, great philosophers, writers, especially musicians, unfortunately, in some cases, artists, many of them who have accomplished great things in this world, frequently they become victims of depression, or sometimes they become victims of drug addiction or alcoholism. That's because when we push our mind in one direction without a spiritual ideal, what happens is our mind tries to let off the steam by taking refuge in drug addiction or alcoholism. This is an important point, especially in modern times. Faith in God and spiritual values are much more important in our times than they were in ancient times, because these times are very problematic and very complex. Many of the problems that we read about in today's books on psychology or psychiatry never existed in ancient times. There is a verse in some of the scriptures, Yeppuman adimedhavi chaturnam ekam asnude alpayu anapadyova daridra paditopiva. People who become extremely well established, or those who show extreme levels of intellectual powers, they are likely to confront one problem. Either they may neglect their health, they become depressed, or they may die soon, or they will have some other difficulties like poverty and so on, unless they have a spiritual direction. Otherwise, they will take refuge in some kind of problems, because when the mind is pushed in one direction with great focus, with great concentration, the result may be a great literary work. A man like Dostoevsky is an example. Great genius, maybe arguably one of the, if not the greatest novelist produced in Western literary tradition. You can imagine many such great men you find, many artists, many musicians who accomplished great things. They didn't have any spiritual ideal to follow. Then as a result, they took refuge in alcoholism, drug addiction, and many other problems. On the other hand, you can find in India a man like Tyagaraja, who was perhaps one of the greatest names in Indian musical tradition, who was a saint and a sage who lived and sang only for God. Or a man like Purendradasa, who had a rather difficult life, who was a very stingy person, a very miserly person, and who later became a great devotee, and he's one of the greatest names in the tradition of Carnatic music, South Indian musical tradition. So you can find great men who accomplished great things in music, art, and so on. They became great saints. Or maybe Tulsidasi, Tulsidasi, another example. Many such names you find, many great points you find in Indian tradition, who have become very great, but their greatness was supported and spiritually enriched by spiritual values. In modern times, especially when people have to work very hard, spend long hours in their office places, and life becomes very competitive. There's a lot of insecurity for employment, for financial stability, and so on. It is very important that we should have some spiritual ideal to follow, some higher spiritual ideal to guide our life, to organize our energies, to direct our actions and thoughts and words. Otherwise, this depression cannot be remedied. It is frequently admitted by many modern psychiatrists that many of these psychological problems do not have, unfortunately, they do not have a permanent solution. Drugs and treatment can only postpone problems, can suppress the symptoms. They can only, for some time, render ourselves insensitive to our own problems. But if we can teach students studying in schools and colleges, if we can give some training in spiritual teachings, in spiritual ideals, teach them the lives and teachings of great saints like Shankaracharya, Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, and so on. There are many innumerable great spiritual personalities born in India. All their teachings and lives can be a great ideal for our society to follow. So we should always remember psychological problems or psychiatric problems do not really have a permanent solution at psychological level. They can have a permanent solution only at spiritual level. This is a very important point we should remember. Psychiatric problems cannot be treated at psychological level. They can be treated only at the spiritual level. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 2nd chapter, there's a long description of Siddhaprajna, Siddhaprajna Lakshanani. In the 2nd chapter, in 54th verse, Arjuna is asking one question. He's putting a question to Lord Krishna. Siddhaprajnasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava siddhadigim prabhasheda kim asida vrajeda kim. Siddhaprajna is a person whose mind is always stable, steady, serene, and established in a state of perfect equanimity and perfect equilibrium. Such a person is able to look upon pleasure and pain, happiness and unhappiness, profit and loss with the same equanimity of mind. The only way to avoid unhappiness is to stop looking for a constant experience or a continuous succession of happiness. If we stop chasing happiness, we can stop suffering unhappiness. Because the real happiness is beyond happiness and unhappiness as understood at the empirical level. That is beyond mind. We should be able to go beyond mind. We should be able to look upon everything as an expression of the divine. Both happiness and unhappiness, good and bad, keep changing. But behind and beyond all these changing phenomena, there is one unchanging supreme reality. That is Atman in the Vedantic tradition, or maybe it can be called Bhagavan, Ishvara, Krishna, Rama, Sri Ramakrishna, Shankaracharya, or any of these great names, Jesus Christ or Buddha. Many traditions, you have many ideals of the divine. So a strong faith in the divine or a strong conviction that spirituality is the only solution to psychological problems, and there is one all-pervading, omnipresent, immanent and transcendental reality, that is Atman. Once we realize this, we can look upon the whole world as one spiritual family. Then we'll be able to look upon happiness and unhappiness as the two sides of the same coin. So this also helps us to understand one fundamental principle, that everything in this world is basically, fundamentally impermanent. So if we can always keep in our mind that everything in this world, every experience is changing, bound to change, essentially impermanent, then there is no need to worry about anything. Because the problem that creates this worry right now will not be there next moment. The experience that makes us happy now will not be there next moment. So everything is bound to change. So this idea or this fact of the essential impermanence of everything in this world is another way of confronting this problem of depression, keeping in mind the fact that everything in this world is bound to change, subject to change. So if we can keep that in mind, there is no room for depression, worry or anxiety. So thank you. I congratulate the United Consciousness for organizing this program. It has become a great blessing for thousands of people around the world who are watching these important and very relevant programs, and I pray to God for giving them all blessings and success in their endeavor. Thank you. Namaskar. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Swami Tattvamayananda ji for his enlightening discourse. Thank you so much. Our next guest is Yogi Baba Adnan Ananda Siddhi Viho Kabuk from Turkey. The cultural richness of his homeland nourished his soul and his life journey through matching the logical aspects of the Occident with the emotional aspects of the Orient. He attended many training programs and learning yoga from various teachers, healers, gurus and masters all over India and in the Far East. In 1996, he started to teach yoga in Istanbul and founded a yoga school which he named after one of his gurus, Siddha Ashram Yoga Center. He has his ashram in the Taurus Mountains of Alanaya, Antalya, Turkey, where he teaches classical spiritual yoga. Other than teacher training programs, he also hosts yoga purification camps in his ashram. He has his autobiography by the name Without Disturbing the Silence, The Life Adventure of a Mesopotamian Yogi, published in 2008.
Namaste. Do you hear me?
Do you hear me?
You are audible and visible and audible both. You're welcome, Yogi Babaji.
Thank you, Dr. Vikrant.
Hi, Dr. Vikrant.
First of all, I want to thank Dr. Vikrantji, Swamiji Amadio Bianchi, Sukadevji, Emiji, and the team of United Consciousness and European Yoga Federation for the great service to make this event successfully. Now, spirituality and optimism is our subject. I welcome my dear friends. We have listened to quite few discussions from masters and gurus who shared with us their views on spirituality versus different aspects of attributes. Now I will try to share my ideas how I see spirituality and optimism. Spirituality is the state of human beings regardless. A state of peace, oneness, contentment. Humans are all spiritual beings by nature. Humans have a high vibrational frequencies, and the character of his inner world is peace. The question on the meaning of life, which lies in the deepest recesses of man's existence, starts at the very beginning of man's evolution. Life is not all about what men see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. There is more than those worldly sensations and experiences. Otherwise, if one he see is not in that mind frame of spirituality and easily influenced by the effect of physical world, then a desire arises to entertain the body and mind. The ego, greed, selfishness, etc. These unending desires make him lose his inner peace and contentment, making it hard for him to be optimistic. If he transforms these negative emotions to positive thinking, compassion, understanding, generosity, love giving, tolerance, etc., then he will regain his inner peace and transform this his negative outlook to positive. The seed of his being, which is godliness, longs to seek, question, observe nature, his surroundings, and his own character, his attitude, and his very existence in comparison to his true nature, which is deeply rooted in the heart of his being. Therefore, bearing the godly attributes, he is drawn to follow a path through mystical ways, practices, prayers, and more so, religion. Religion, which is the easiest path as it has been made available by some learned beings who projected their own understanding and beliefs. Know that every human being bears his own religion based on his experiences, both past and present lives. His awakened state, therefore, will realize and analyze the influence and differences to his way of understanding life and be more attentive to follow the path to become one with his true nature. According to his karmic evolution, he may wake up soon or not at all for this lifespan. If he has reached a stage of spiritual maturity, he may start to listen to his inner voice. There is more to discover inside him than his outside world, or to say, what exists in the whole universe exists inside him. He himself is the micro-universe. Now he is on his path. He has become the seeker or the secret of path, the secret of life, which means discovering his real self and realizing his duty on this lifespan. At this stage, knowing his true identity, the existence of this true self, he automatically becomes more optimistic and balanced in physical, mental, and energy bodies. He has found peace and contentment. Of course, man can reach realization through different traditions like yoga, Sufism, Buddhism, Christianity, etc. All the religions are holy and aim one thing, that is to awaken spirituality in man. Unfortunately, in general, religions have been misused and misunderstood. In general, yoga is more practical. Pardon me. Yoga is more practical spiritual system, as yoga does not discriminate between faith and religion. Yoga does not create separation, rather it brings unity. As yoga, as a word itself, it means to unite, unity. I have personally believed that yoga meditation system is complete and perfect for the world society. Therefore, yoga can bring hope to unite as one family and bring peace to the world. This is optimism. Optimism helps you feel and think positively. More hope, more trust, more peace. Therefore, make us happier, successful, and healthier. Spiritual life means to live with optimism. I would like to read something from Albert Einstein, few words, which is for me is quite interesting, and I like this. Albert Einstein has said that, according to what I have found in the book, we are slowed down sound and light waves. We are walking bundle of frequencies tuned to the music of the cosmos. We are all souls dressed in sacred biochemical garments, and our bodies are instruments that play the music of our souls. Allah the Almighty bless all humanity. Om Namah Shivaya. Now, yes, Dr. Vikrant.
Thank you very much, respected Baba Adnanji, for your wonderful speech. You mentioned, yes, you were saying something.
No, thank you. I said thank you.
You mentioned about that realizing true nature leads to optimism, and the way you connected it with the karmic accounts, and that help us to know why my nature is like this in this lifetime. You also touched upon five bodies, our astral body existence. You mentioned yoga as the solution, and you rightly said that the spiritual life means leading with optimism. I love the quotation that you quoted that souls are biochemical the body is the biochemical garden of the soul. It is so beautiful way of putting it. I'm sure that audience who are watching us from different part of the world will be inspired by the thoughts that you put on the topic spirituality and open-mindedness. I have a small question, Baba Adnanji, if you can permit me to ask. So one question I got, and if one or two lines, if you can answer it in, what action can I take today to leading an optimistic life?
Well, as a human being, I should say that we have to understand the first thing, that if we call ourselves human being, responsibility is the key word. If we can take the responsibility to think as a human being, to act like a human being, then everything will be in the order. Because a human being supposed to be coming from the Almighty, he carry all these qualities, positive qualities of the Almighty. They're all positive. So if man can carry this understand the responsibility of his being as a human being, so he has to be accordingly with this Almighty's qualities, the all positive qualities, and according to that, living with that, then there is no need to do anything else.
Wonderfully said that if you know your source, then you know you are coming from Almighty, and that itself is the biggest optimistic thing to think about ourselves. Thank you very much, Babaji, for blessing us today.
I thank you to everyone, and God bless everyone. Om Namah Shivaya.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Yogi Baba Adnan for coming on to the platform of United Consciousness. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Vibhuti Jha, who is Executive Director in Nalanda International, USA. In 1991, he worked in leadership role with the American Express Bank to build and develop Indo-US business relationships. He obtained his undergraduate degree with majors in economics and minors in politics and psychology from Fergusson College, Pune, and his master's is in economics. He got his inclination towards understanding of Indian culture, its rich tradition, values, and Vedic heritage. He participated in the PBS Live program on Asian Indians in America, speaking on Indian culture, traditions, and values. He is a committed practitioner of transcendental meditation for the past 30 years. So please welcome Dr. Vibhuti Jha.
Namaste. Jai Shiv Shankar. It's a real honor and pleasure to be back with you on this wonderful conclave. Yogi Baba from Turkey talked about religion, and this is the perfect segue, optimism. But the topic that I am talking about is about how to achieve a work-life balance is actually the domain when the rubber hits the road. You have listened just now to two outstanding people who gave you enormous knowledge. Babaji talked about the humanness of the entire world. Yes, we are human beings. And that is what is important. We are human beings as God's creation. We are a creature of emotion. We are a creature. We are a living entity of our own emotions, of our own experiences. So here I'm going to touch upon in this short time, because this is a topic we can talk all day long. So let me share with you certain dimensions when the rubber hits the road with all the knowledge that you have gathered here between yesterday and today, and you will be hearing more and more. The question will come about, how do I apply it? Knowledge, information, wisdom, they are all good. But if you are not able to apply it, then it doesn't make any difference. Then it is just like a book of quotations or the religious texts. So let me begin with a very important statement, taking the cue from the Babaji from Turkey. It was a profound statement. Spirituality is few steps ahead of religion. We are all God's creations. Universally, 8 billion people, they all have one common element. We are all human beings, men and women, whatever shape and size, whatever color, whatever we practice, whatever we eat, we are all human beings. And we have universal concerns, universal happiness, universal joy when seeing our people succeed, general happiness. That's the important part to understand. So there is a very important thing that I will share with you, that human life is divided into certain components. How do we achieve work-life balance? Let's not think about balance for a moment. How do we achieve an elevated equilibrium in our work-life balance? That's what is the important part. Because this equilibrium is important, because swing will happen from time to time. Every emotion has this up and down, high and low. How do we connect that? How do we achieve the equilibrium of equanimity, of elevated sense? So let's put together. We all deal with certain universal issues. Spiritual and emotional is one side of the work. Occupational and intellectual is the second element. Third element is financial and environmental. And the fourth is physical and social. We are all creatures of participating in each of the dimensions of life. Now, that is what is important. We are all individuals based on our own experiences of life, our own education, our own temperament. We are all different. So, what is important for us to remember that unless and until we respect other people as us, as we say in Namaste, unless and until we accept and respect other human beings as myself, as equal, there will be no emotional or spiritual values instilled in us. If we keep saying that I am superior to somebody else and others who are not doing something like me are inferior to me, that's where the discord happens. So to achieve that balance, it is important for us to accept and respect everybody as God's creation, men and women, as a God-given entity performing identical functions, our responsibilities. Very key word. The second part comes about occupational and intellectual. We all need to become better. Performance matters. And this is what is very critical. The performance in every aspect of our life that we choose to be, there is an excellence. There is a need for excellence. Knowing more, doing more. How do we do that? That will happen only when we take a conscious decision to be better than what we are. That's what the constant endeavor of learning comes in. Unless and until we continuously be on a learning curve or a learning cycle or learning steps, we will suffer immensely. And to that end, it is very important to accept and acknowledge a very simple fact that I don't know something. That is such a cathartic experience for me, is that it's not possible for me to know everything in the world. I may not know anything in the world, even from my own domain of expertise. So, moment we recognize that I do not know, when we make a self-declared declaration that I do not know this, that is the beginning step for learning. That's very important. So I do not know something is not a negative statement. It's a remarkably powerful individual commitment to the fact that I'm willing to learn something because I do not know. Then we begin to learn something from others. That's the way we improve our occupational and intellectual capabilities, learning about other religions, learning about other faiths, and accepting them as they are. That's the key part, not my way or highway. That's the critical element. The other element, when you improve upon your occupational and intellectual capability, is to learn a very important attribute called learning to say no. That's so important. You know, we were doing a very important workshop in a particular time in 250 people, and we were teaching them the virtues of saying no, the importance of saying no. Just as happiness and unhappiness are two sides of the same coin, yes and no are also two sides of the same coin. If you do not know how to say no, your yes loses its meaning, because that's very important cultural element. Many a times people have told me that in our culture we do not say no. And what is the deleterious impact of that? Because whenever we say we do not know how to say no, we are lying when we say yes. The other person knows that I don't mean yes when I say yes. And that's what is important. Then what happens is that in our lifetime, we become dishonest with ourselves. And then the whole imperfections of behavior comes into and creeps into our life. Then what must I do to make things happen? So second thing is learn to say no. There is nothing wrong in not knowing something. Absolutely not. And there is always good to say, I don't know something, and I will say no when I need to say no, because there is no way we can do everything all the time and knowing everything about everything else. The third element of the balance is about financial and environmental. How much money do I need? Which environment do I live in? Now, this is very important to know that financial and environmental part is character and competence issue. You know, a sportsman, he's not gone through an MIT or IIT education to become wealthy. A sportsman is a college dropout or a school dropout, he still makes millions. Artists, painters, photographers, people are all excelling in their profession that earns them their privilege. It is very important also to understand for us, and that's why I'm talking about here, that character and competence have no correlation with each other. You can be a great professional in your field, but you can be a very bad parent. You could be a very average parent, but you could be a very successful businessman. Think about it. That balance is very critical to understand. That how good am I in my responsibility to my family, to my children, to my wife, to my spouse, and everything else involved with that. So, character and competence, we must not fudge that matter. Most often than not, we always say, oh, somebody is a CEO of a company, or somebody is a Baba or yogi, he must be a greatest man. But we have known the stories of religious abuse of children, of women, all over the world. What happened there? Because we underrated the capacity of character and competence. Is absolutely essential for us to distinguish them completely. Just because I'm a great banker, it doesn't make me a very good father. Whereas I could be a good father and maybe a lousy banker. Both things are possible. But if we begin to draw the difference and begin to draw the balance, that I can be a good parent, I can be a good learner, and I can be a good banker, there is a greater joy and satisfaction in life. The other last part I wanted to touch upon was the physical and social part. How fit are we? I'll give you a very simple example. We all have flown in our life, taken an airline. How often do we pay attention to the security instructions and safety instructions that the air crew gives us? But for me, that wisdom came on a particular day when the air hostess announced that when the cabin pressure falls, the oxygen mask will drop in front of you. Put it on yourself first before you help others. That was a eureka moment for me. I said, if I'm not fit physically, mentally, spiritually, and every other sense of the term, how can I help others? And that's what is important for you and I to bear in mind, that physical and social competence comes when I am fit enough. Yoga, pranayam is very important for us to do that. I do it. Today morning, I got up at 4 o'clock. I did my pranayam, I did my meditation, and that's what I always say to you, to everybody, that what meditation does to me is to allows me to retain my sanity in an otherwise insane world. That's my definition. I'm not asking you to follow that, but define yourself in that perspective, that in that moment, what it does to you. That's what is important about achieving an elevated equilibrium. Remember one thing, life's good things are very tough to do. It's so easy for us to watch a football match for 3 hours or a sporting event for 5 hours. We find it so difficult to do meditation for 20 minutes. We say we don't have time. I remember this part because 40 years ago, when I was in Bangalore, I went to learn transcendental meditation. The Guruji gave me the mantra, gave me the Diksha, and he told me you have to do it 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. And I was an arrogant young banker. And I said, oh, I don't have time. And the Guruji, with a twinkle in his eyes, he told me, the lessons that he taught me were never taught in any business school. He said, young man, if you were to vanish from the face of this earth this very moment, do you think anything is going to change? That was a real hard punch to my large ego. And I got really punctured. I realized that, oh my God, my institution will have many people to fill up my seat, good, bad, or ugly. But I will not be missed. Work will go on, life will go on. The second thing that he said was very, very interesting, is that you may think that people will miss you. Yes, there will be some who will. But do you realize that was his quirky sense of humor? He said, do you realize so many people will be happy you are gone? Finally, the third part was that he also said that in the very next moment after you are gone, life will begin to happen for everybody who will miss you. This is the point which I'm trying to tell you. The last line that I will say to you today is that the one thing that we control in our life is our reaction and our response to way the life comes to us. So achieve this elevated equilibrium by modulating your own response to what people say and do for you, because your words matter, your actions matter, your response matters. And that's all I wanted to say. Work-life balance is a cyclical process. It is never, pendulum always keeps swinging. You have to find that point in which you are happy with yourself. Thank you very much. As part of the United Consciousness, I am truly honored to share my thoughts with you, because work-life balance is critical and it's all about you, regardless of where you are, who you are, which country you are in, and which religion you practice. Spirituality is 2 steps ahead of any practice that exists in the world. Thank you very much.
Respected Jha, we are really blessed. Your concept of elevated equilibrium from different perspectives you mentioned about personal, and the strong statement that you gave from this platform is respect and accept everybody as equal, respect all religions as equal. You said that it should not be my way or highway. Then for occupational, you also mentioned that the languages of superlatives leads to discord. You mentioned about occupational balance, and we need to be better than what we are doing today. We need to learn how to say no. For financial balance, you mentioned decide how much is too much, and the great concept of character versus competency, making balance in both and not confusing between them. You also mentioned about physical and social balance, lift yourself before you lift others. And good things are tough to do, but they are worth to do. And you mentioned about minimizing the ego. Life happens to us, but our responses are in our hands. Thank you very much, respected Jha. Really honored and blessed to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Honored to be here. Best wishes for the rest of the day.
Thank you.
I thank Dr. Vibhuti Jha for such a valuable explanation. Thank you so much. Dr. Ashish Garekar, who is Professor and Dean in Faculty of Management, MAT Mauritius. He is teaching at higher education level since the last 22 years. His area of interest in research is industry and education. He strongly believes in research-based teaching learning and finds no substitution of this. He has been a successful consultant trainer and mentor to corporate leaders. He has been on the editorial board as well as reviewers board of the reputed international journals. He has published more than 40 research papers in international journals and conferences. Under his profound leadership as an academic head, dean and head of department, he has delivered the academic excellence. He has also designed and implemented an innovative pedagogy to make the subject knowledge interesting and meaningful in the real world context. By the virtue of his education, qualification and innovative thinking, he is highly appreciated for his leadership role as an administrator and professor in higher education arena.
Well, thank you very much for that honored and pompous introduction. I hope I'm audible as well as my audio and video is clear. So there we go. And I'm excited to talk about something very interesting that really has given a lot of dimension to even my thought process, and that's a spirituality and humility. I have always been appreciative of the concept that more the humbleness in your attitude and in your behavior, larger is the radiation of the energy. It's very easy to, get going with something that may really raise so-called your temperament and your thinking and maybe your behavior patterns.
But then to reverse it, and reverse it in such a way as to become approachable as well as accessible to the world, it's something unique which is need of an art. Remember, who is more approachable? The one who has assertiveness, who has positivity in his behavior. And where from we get this? To tell you, we definitely get this from the source called yoga, meditation, and yes, the spirituality. Because spirituality, in nutshell, has that power to let you know that in this universe where you stand. And well, knowing that position will always help you to ground yourself, your ideas, and your thought process. These days, I have witnessed, and I have witnessed many examples of humility. People are trying to create an environment for others conducive enough to raise their lifestyles as well as make their living possible. And I can tell you, the if you go on backward integrating this, somewhere you will find that this all has come up from our mythology, our enormous amount of accessible knowledge in the books of Ramayana, Gita, Mahabharata, and Vedas. So these this compact knowledge again may not be an interest of common man, but what should be an interest is live and let live. We as a human being has all definitely rights to accumulate wealth, but then we have to understand what is enough and what is required to live a sensible life, and beyond that have a courage to share. Abundance is a very relative term. Okay, the one who may be having an asset of the valuation maybe in crores may feel that I have an abundance of resources. On the contrary, the someone who has just 10 currencies of 100 each, meaning just 1,000 rupees, may also feel that I have abundance. It's very relative. And this relativity makes the life beautiful. We have heard and we are seeing that the people, even with less resources, when measured on the happiness quotient, performed much higher than so-called the wealthy people, or maybe the ones who has larger resources. Point here is materialistic wealth probably, or maybe these materialistic resources cannot be the source of satisfaction and the joy. It's a proven fact. I'm not the first one to tell this. But yes, what I'm trying to make a point here is try to be sensible, ground yourself. Do not just fly in air just because maybe you have got few degrees more, or maybe few years of experience more, or maybe on the ladder of salaries you are earning more. Doesn't literally make you possibly the happy person. What will make you a happy person is by sharing your resources, sharing your ideas, and sharing your thought process. My humble appeal to one and all is, especially those who have started believing that they are learned and they are accomplished people, needs to ground themselves, make them accessible and approachable. Well, one more thing, and this is pretty important. So recently, I have been to to one of the schools as a guest speaker, and what I could see there wonders. Along with the academics, these schools are giving equal weightage in grooming the students in real human beings, the one who will value human values, the one who will care for others and believe in sharing their best with others. This kind of nurturing is required and is required in the early stages of our career. Many a times and many a platforms, it has been talked that the Gurukul Paddhati has no more significance in the current education system. But I beg to differ, and I strongly beg to differ. Well, I'm not here for excluding things, but I'm very much here for making things work for inclusive growth. Instead of cutting things and creating something which is maybe uh, may be fitting or may not be fitting to the cause, why not we put everything together in a manner or another and create an environment where not only the technocrats, the corporate citizens, or maybe scientists, or maybe thinkers are nurtured, but yes, the human values are also nurtured. People and the people should be taught how to be humble and well, what they can experience by just being humble. Well, one more thing. The lot of time I have seen people experiencing a lot of stress, and then they somehow feel detached from the mainstream of living life, feel unhappy, and then they take on something wrongful ways for making their livings. My question is why this happens? And this happens because lack of support in that delicate phase of life. If we are supportive, if we are caring, if we are understanding and mature enough to show your interest in resolving their problems or maybe helping them out from that crisis situation, believe me, to largest extent we can definitely control on these ugly happenings. One more very good example I would tell you, and this happened recently. I won't name the leader because I don't want to make political associations and the other things, but it is so happening that the leader, a prominent leader, is engaged in a you know political campaign, and during that political campaign, it so happened that the ambulance on the same road is moving with the patient, obviously the siren on, and this leader, a prominent leader, at the top of at the helm of the affairs, realized that something is not right. And well, with all humbleness and respect, he asked the whole march to make way for that ambulance. An ambulance passed. Well, media and all, they did their job. But my understanding or my take is the one who has all might, strength, and our powers and authorities and whatnot under his shoulders could have even asked that let the ambulance take some other road and take the patient to the hospital. Why should I disturb my campaign? And well, I have all authorities to do that. But no ways. The humbleness at its top. I would say these experiences will teach we all people that what it means by helping others and making others' life easy and conducive. This one example I'm telling you has really given learning for life. How to be humble, approachable, and yes, dedicate yourself in making others' life better and even better. Well, things doesn't end here. My another point to present is when it comes to say humbleness, when it comes to humility, how we can increase the quotient of humility or say humbleness or being approachable, how to nurture that. And I would say this question can be very easily nurtured subject to we start practicing yoga, we start understanding and appreciating obviously self-existence and its relevance to our own people, but at the same time people around us. Remember, we being a social animal, we cannot make our own life livable and sustainable unless and until there are the people working around you. What it means, it simply means one point, and that is we should be appreciative and humble and approachable towards the mankind around us. And this doesn't mean just for the mankind, but towards all and every living being. Spirituality helps you to know that you should be more and more approachable towards even animal, even environment. And well, I'll take few seconds here to talk about our approachableness and our humbleness towards environment is also equally important. This industrial era needs that angle even more prominently. First of all, spirituality should be respecting you, should is teaching you mainly about how to create a balance and how to be a perfect manager in order to let everyone develop. Well, with that, I think I have taken my time and I thank Conscious Worldwide, United Conscious Conclave, and the organizers that they have given me an opportunity to present my viewpoint on spirituality and humility. I really, really thank one and all and wish all best for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ashish ji. Thank you very much for giving emphasis on being approachable, being grounded, and importance of value education, reassertion on Gurukulam Paddhati, importance of yoga, and realizing that humility towards Sarva Bhutanam, not only human beings, and the concern for environment also. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Dr. Ashish Gadekar for coming onto the platform of United Consciousness. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is a versatile personality. He is an acknowledged trainer, academician, scholar, writer, and a management consultant. He has done his doctorate in business management and master's in philosophy. He is a national merit holder in electronics-enabled training from Indian Society of Training and Development, New Delhi. He is Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar. Dr. Tomar is a freelance trainer and served the cabinet ministers of state, MLAs, police officers, and tycoons of business world. He has authored the book Rule the World as Krishna Did. He addressed first World Spiritual Parliament Hyderabad International Conference on Innovative Business Management as a keynote speaker, and his thoughts on impact of Indian philosophy on modern management were also appreciated at Philosophy of Management Conference, Oxford, London, International Conference on Enterprise System and Best Management Practices organized by Global Digital Business Society, USA. He is on a mission of happiness here and now. The aim and objective is universal brotherhood and happiness through harmonizing the knowledge from ancient scriptures into our lives. His message throughout has long been that you can think of happiness or even catch happiness for a while, but you can never buy happiness. Many have found themselves spiritually elevated because of his teachings on Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta, etc. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar.
Namaste, everybody. My topic of talk given to me is spirituality and law of karma. Whether these questions ever came to your mind, listen and raise your hand if they have come to your mind. Did you ever suffer something that you don't think you deserve? Second, did you ever get something which you thought you would never get, but somehow by God's grace you got it? Third, did you ever think this thought came to you, why bad things happen to good people? Fourth, have you ever thought that why an infant child died of disease? What wrong did he do ever for getting that disease and dying out of it? Fifth question, why do I attract this abusive relationship or these difficulty or these patterns again and again in my life? If you have ever thought of these questions, then the answer lies in law of karma. Let's understand law of karma, but before understanding it, we need to start from the beginning. What is the purpose of life? Answer is elevation for liberation. What is liberation? Freedom from all fear. Why do I fear? Because I do not know my true divine nature. Why don't I know my nature? Because of avidya, ignorance. Know what to do now? Get vidya, the right knowledge. Paravidya, knowledge about your true nature. Sa vidya ya vimuktaye, the true vidya is which liberates us. And getting vidya and direct experience. Through vidya, knowledge and direct experience together, I will realize my true nature and then I will be liberated. But then from where do I get that vidya and direct experience? Certainly, if I want to learn something, I need to go to the university. Which is that university? University is universe. And that's why we come to the universe to learn, to realize ourselves. But the moment we enter into the universe, we act. Act to get that direct experience. This karma has two meanings. One meaning is action. Every thought, feelings, words, and action is called karma. It is also called purushartha, my efforts. Second is the results of karma is also called karma. So this results, whenever I do something, I get results. Results can be visible and invisible. Visible result can be seen. I didn't study, I get failed. But invisible results of my good deeds are called punyam. Punyam means invisible positive results of my good deeds that will fructify later. And invisible bad results of my bad deeds, negative results of my bad deeds are called papa. That I will get later, the results of that. Because not everything comes to me immediately. I spoilt my habit of eating. Today only I won't have many diseases. Maybe 10, 20 years down the line, I'll have lifestyle diseases. Later, I will get returns of my bad deeds also. And these both invisible returns of positive deeds and negative deeds, called invisible variables. So all my deeds come back to me. And this papa and punya get accumulated, which is commonly called it akashic records or sanchit karma. So this accumulation of all my deeds ever are called sanchit karma. And a particular part of that sanchit karma will be fructified in this birth, which is called prarabdha karma. So, prarabdha karma are those choiceless situations in which I find myself as a result of all the accumulated karmas that I had in many of the lifetimes. So, whenever I front these choiceless situations, prarabdha, am I helpless? No. I don't have a choice of what situation will come, but I will certainly have a choice that how will I respond to it. So my response to it is called Kriyaman Karma. Kriyaman Karma is the same thing as Purushartha. It is karma. So when I start responding to it, then life start moving. So what will be the quality of my response? How will I respond? Will decide whether will I learn in this university called universe. So what are the basic rules here? If I want to deal with these laws of karmas, there are three laws of karmas that I need to remember. First, every karma will have an effect. Whatever I think, act, speak, or do will or feel will have an impact back on me. Rule number two, law of karma is more powerful than law of land. Law of land, the rules and regulations may leave you, but law of karma will never leave you ever. Third, law of average does not work here. It means I did a bad deed and I did a good deed, they won't get equal and nullified. No. There is a separate punishment for a bad deed, there is a separate prize and reward for a good deed. So both go separately. It's just like judiciary system. If you do good deeds, you'll be applauded. But if you do bad deeds, it won't be nullified because you have done good deeds. Separate punishments. Remembering these three laws, now let's we understand how will I know whether I have learned here in this university to realize myself. Couple of things. Rule number one, my present is the result of the past, and my future is the result of the present. So it's such a encouraging situation I am in. So law of karma tells us to take charge. If you are really learning here, lesson number one that I need to learn here is take charge and act now. Every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So lesson number one, act now. Lesson number two, whenever you get confronted by negative situations, problematic situations, negative people, problematic people, call them as learning opportunities, because never forget, we have come here to learn. It is a university. Difficult time, difficult people. These people are the people whom you really needed. And at times, the person whom you needed the most will teach you a lesson that you need actually nobody. So every person and situation is there to teach us something, provided if we focus on learning rather than blaming on the people. So law of karma is not a punishment system. It's an educational tool. It's our evolution plan. Lesson number three. Remember, there is not a single blow undeserved. Swami Vivekananda said, whatever we are confronting in this life, we have certainly deserved it. Not in a negative sense. We deserve it for our improvement. So don't blame anybody. Just like a TV without remote control. Get up and change the channel of your life. Don't blame anybody. Take charge of your life because there is not a single blow undeserved. Lesson number 4, accept all choiceless situations. Tathata, things are such complete acceptance to all choiceless situations. Lesson number 5, things will repeat, situations will repeat, patterns will repeat till we don't learn the lesson. So we need to learn the lesson in this university called universe. And the degree, graduate degree, is called moksha. Situations are test papers. People are teachers. Some people are really tough teachers. They will really check your patience and see whether have you really learned something or you are just speaking about it, because speaking is most easy thing. So have gratitude to those masters who are creating difficult situations for you. Remember, universe is infinitely compassionate. We are not doomed for our bad deeds to have born here. We are not original sinners. We have done no sins. We are sent with love to learn that all material elements are subject to decay. Strive diligently. So next time whenever you fail, tell yourself it's never too late to start anew. Next time whenever somebody hurts you, say thank you. Next time whenever you face a difficult situation, see it as a tough paper, opportunity to learn. Next time whenever you meet difficult people, call them a tough teacher, checking your real merits. Next time when you see a choiceless situation, accept it fully, tathata. And next time when you get a blow, call it journey of life. And when we live life with this awareness, we won't accumulate new karmas. Because this way we will remember our purpose of life, that to realize our true nature. And then we know that our purpose of life is to realize the true nature. Then we will become free, fearless, because there is nothing to worry. We'll come here, learn and go. Even if we won't learn, we'll go. So just to summarize, purpose of life is to elevation for liberation. And liberation, why don't we realize ourselves? Avidya, to know Vidya, we come in the university called universe and we act. Action is, karma means action, and the results of action, invisible results, invisible positive results are called punyam, negative are called papa. Punya papa together is called sanchit karma. Sanchit, the part of sanchit karma that will be fructified in this birth. I will face a situation is called prarabdha karma, and my response to prarabdha karma is called kriyaman karma. And then I need to, whenever I act, and I need to remember 3 laws. First, there will be an effect of every action I do. Law of karma is more important than law of land. There are no law of average in that. 5 learnings I need to learn. First is take charge. It's never too late. Second is learning. Everything is learning opportunities. Third is don't blame anybody. There is no single blow undeserved. 4th lesson is accept all. And 5th is gratitude. And that's why we can lead a fearless life. This is what we call as law of karma. Thank you very much.
Vikrant, that was an awesome summary of one of the most complicated topic in our scriptures. Usually the karma, it is always perceived as fate, and it is very difficult to understand. People always plays as the victim. So you summarized it very nicely and provided the opportunity how we can use this karma to build our future. That's awesome. So thank you very much for not only just leading from the front, but also giving one of the best lectures. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. And what is the better than having one of my teachers greeting me for this? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We thank Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar for an excellent session. Taoism says that openness is an ability to go with the flow, to be receptive without prejudging. Spirituality teaches us openness by practicing empathy, flexibility, and embrace the new possibility. So let's find out how spirituality enables the open-mindedness. In the panel discussion on the topic spirituality, and open-mindedness. In the panel, we also have with us Mr. Cosmin Constantine, who has spent 20 years of his life in sports and later became a fitness coach. Then he started teaching Hatha Yoga classes, which changed everything completely. He visited India, where he studied intensive courses of Ashtanga Yoga, Pranayama, Mantra, meditation, Yoga Nidra, philosophy and asana with Yogi Sunil Sharma and Yogi Kamal Singh at Tattva Yoga Shala in Rishikesh. Also in India, Rishikesh, alongside Swami Narayanananda, Dr. Jose Ruge Ribeiro Jr., Brazil. He also did the course of psychology, yoga and Ayurveda cosmology in Paramatniketan Ashram and Anand Lok. In Sudha Sabha Ashram, Brazil, along with Dr. Ruge, he studied Ayurveda, Sudha Raja Yoga, meditation and scriptures on Sanatan Dharma on yoga line called Sudha Dharma Mandalam. The last 4 years he began to learn Nidra Yoga, Prana Kriya, Mantra Yoga and Yantra Yoga in the tradition of Kashmirian Shaivism along with Andre Ray. Our next guest is Ms. Sheena Patel, born into an Indian culture in Lusaka, Zambia. She has been educated in schools and universities across several countries. She lived with humans as well as wild animals. For the last 17 years, she is studying yoga with gurus in the East and doctors turned yogis in the field of trauma and brain CNS in the West. Yoga has created a sort of magic in her life. She lived in Coba Verde, where she shared the knowledge of yoga and sound from the podium of the mat with the written words to create change in most powerful place on this planet within humans. In this panel, we are privileged to introduce Mr. Stephen Ivanovic. He is a yoga instructor, student of specialist studies at the Faculty of Sports and Physical Education, co-founder and president of Center for Souls and Body in Nexec. From his early teens, he enrolled himself at the International Yoga Academy for the training of yoga instructors at Belgrade. Together with his family in 2014, he founded the Center for Soul and Body. With his elevated mission, he cooperates with many experts in the field of personal growth and development and provides people with comprehensive support in finding personal balance and development. He is currently enrolled in education to become certified personal trainer in the National Academy of Sports Medicine organization from United States of America. His interests include yoga education, psychology, human resources, business and entrepreneurship, event management, and many more. He has presented many papers in national and international conferences on dermatology and oncology research, and also invited by many nations as guest speakers such as Indonesia, London, US, Germany, Israel, and many more. He has been awarded many awards like Excellent Service Award by Vishwa Ayurved Parishad, Ayush Kamal Bhushan Award, Healers of India Award, etc. I feel honored to welcome our next guest, Mr. Gabriel Arrezola. He is a kinesiologist and a physiotherapist by profession from the University of Mayor de St. Andres. He has done numerous courses in yoga and meditation like Diploma in Motor Sciences and Human Development. Diploma in Yoga from Mexico. He has studied training and sports studies with a medical focus. He has been teaching yoga since 1995 in various educational institutions as yoga and massage teacher in La Paz in several cities in Bolivia, Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Chile, Paraguay, and Mexico. He is invited as a guest and participant in the 9 world meetings of yoga Tugismo in Mexico and Peru. He is the coordinator and collaborator in the AIYY Yoga and Restorative Yoga Teachers Training. He has been a professor of anatomy and physiology for the 3 years in the medical career of the France Tamayo University of Santa Cruz. He is currently working as an alternative therapist at the Center of Integral Therapies Elements, tutor teacher of the AIYY Yoga Teachers Training, yoga facilitator and personal development. He has authored many books like Massages, the Yoga of Contact, Anatomy and Risk Management in Yoga, The Initiate. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Gabriel Arrezola.
I welcome Sheena.
Hello.
Sheena ji, namaste. I welcome Cosman ji. How are you? Stephen ji,
Hello.
we welcome you. And we acknowledge your presence also, Gabriel ji. And we welcome our wonderful audience from different parts of the world. Dear friends, today we are going to talk about open-mindedness. Why did this topic come into picture? Many of the audience wrote to us that my boss asks for opinion, but he always wants to listen what he wants to listen. Some people from family also, different parts of the people, different parts of the globe, some of the families, they said that at our home, opinions are never welcomed. It is
Yes,
always from my parents' side.
I think I have a connect issue. I will getting from.
Gabriel ji, your mic is, uh, can you switch off the mic in case in between? Sorry, thank you very much. So, in case of families also, parents say at times my way or the highway. In politics also, this school of thought is absolutely correct and no other school of thought is admissible. So the first question I would like to ask from Sheena, what makes a person closed-minded? Please unmute and speak. Please, Sheena ji, can you unmute and speak?
Namaste.
Namaste.
I've decided to see how open-minded you are. So there's all love. Sorry, what was the question? I got lost in the love of my glasses.
So the question is, what makes people close-minded? Like my type of specs is better than your types. And in the formal discussions, only this type of glasses are permitted. So what
Well,
makes people close-minded?
I think what really makes people close-minded is that they've attached their sense of themselves to everything external to them. So they've attached their sense of themselves to their thoughts, their beliefs, their roles. And as a result of that, when they hear something that is different to what they believe in, they feel it as if it is an attack on them. And so they immediately shut down. And I think the problem in the world that we have today is that we don't understand that we are not our form. We are not anything external to us. We are a soul. And that soul is good and it's kind and it's filled with knowledge. And it doesn't matter what perspective is surrounding you. They are just different perspectives of reality. So I think the biggest barrier is people not knowing themselves. And so when they hear something different, they immediately take it as an attack on themselves.
Thank you. Very profoundly said, Sheenaji, that they define themselves in their possessions. And if attack comes to the possessions, they feel the attack is on them and then they retaliate it. That's understandable. Stephen G, fine if I'm attached with my own opinions, but why we listen such things that if you won't follow this path, you are certainly going to hell. If you really want to go to heaven, only this is the path. Why do we listen such things in our worlds today?
Yeah, so basically there is a huge issue with development of the kids. Basically, when the kids are developed, the closeness of the parents or like somebody who is a caregiver, they just do not get enough appreciation of who they are as their authentic self, right? So when there's an issue with the authentic self, some of these people just try to close themselves in their own opinions with their own ego. And therefore, basically, the way they're not able to listen to other people, just to listen, doesn't necessarily have to be accepting what their thoughts are. It's just like, it's their mechanism of protection. So if you want to kind of listen to somebody else, then you feel that you are neglecting yourself. And therefore, like, you kind of go into the fight mode that like you're the only one right, because in their own perspective, in their own reality, if I'm not right, can I even live? Can I even exist? Like, maybe if I'm not right, then maybe I should be dead. Like, some of these things are really incorporated so deep into the like self, into the shadow, even what Carl Jung said. So it really comes with the development of their own personal belief and their own personal, self-confidence in one way.
Mm-hmm. Profoundly said that it starts when we were kid, giving us a synthetic self rather than an authentic self. And then we try to, the ego mechanism or defense mechanism tries to protect that synthetic self that is given to me.
Yeah, that's it.
Pasminji, how will I know that a person is open minded? What are the features of an open minded person?
First of all, I think to be open-minded these days, it's understood like something to go with the flow and to go like to accept everything. But I think open-minded person can listen everything, can listen very carefully the life and everything, but also he is accepting everything like any other opinion, but is not bringing into his life or her life all the opinions and all the information that she or he is getting in contact. So I think it's a little bit misunderstood nowadays, the concept of being open-minded, because only a dead fish can go with the flow, you know. You have to be dead to go with the flow, in my opinion. And I think to be open-minded is to not have, sorry, I have a sensor here. To be open-minded means to listen everything, but to not accept everything, and to take care about your unique way of perceiving or putting in practice your life and in the inner world and in the outer world.
Thank you. Pasminji said that one of the parameters to know whether the person is open-minded is he ready to receive, to listen you. If he's listening you with patience, even those thoughts which he doesn't agree, that means that person is open-minded, though acceptance is a choice furthermore. Sheenaji, when it comes to acceptance, do you feel that society in the world has accepted woman as equal as man? It is a strange question I'm asking. Women had to struggle for millenniums to get equality in the society. Do you think that equality is completely established right now, or still male are close-minded about it?
Oh, you ask me such big questions and then give me 2 minutes. Oh, I don't know if we've reached that place of equality, but I don't really think it has to do with men and women and our genitalia. I really think it has to do with our own personal insecurities. That it's not that women are seen as unequal or lesser. I think in the mind of so many, we are still seen as a threat to oneself. I feel like anything that we close ourselves off to is something that threatens ourselves. So no, we haven't, but I don't think it's as black and white as saying that we're unequal or we're treated differently. I think the picture is a little bigger about, if I put this in another way, what Cosmin, did I pronounce that properly, was saying, was that I think what is really the question when you're open-minded is when you speak to someone about a gender or something different is, are you able to see your reaction to it? It's not just about hearing someone else, but being able to say, how does that make me feel when I hear that? And why does it make me feel that way? And what is it within me that is making me feel uncomfortable? Or it's really everything, like you said, is a journey into ourselves. And so I think with men and women, the bigger question is, why is it that men still feel threatened by women? What is it about us that makes you, what is it about us that makes all of you feel so uncomfortable? Okay. Obviously not all of you on this panel, but men in general, what is it? Is it the fact that we control birth? Is it because we are the holders of the future? And I don't think it will change until men start to ask that question. What is it about us that creates an imbalance?
Very important point she raised, and this is what is happening in many of the countries, including Iran, what we are seeing. And right word she said is threatened. So when somebody says something against my beliefs, opinions, I feel threatened. Or my religion, I feel threatened. So having understood this much that this is the threat perception that makes me react. Now, how spirituality can help me to reduce this threat perception? This is the question to Stephen.
Yeah,
Please
sorry.
unmute it.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I mean, spirituality itself can be a double-edged sword, actually. You know, spirituality in one way can actually open up the perception of, the equality and open-mindedness. But then on the other hand, if somebody has a self-identification issue or life ego issue, that can lead you to completely another way, another perspective. So it's really like about how we are, again, open-minded of like actually developing ourselves as a person. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of fakeness into the spirituality world. There's just that narcissistic need when people are saying, I meditate 50 times a day. I don't know, do yoga, I do breath work, I do this, but speaking about love on Instagram or whatever it is, but there's the core essence of that, the core acceptance of that. And there's like so huge like ego issue, like, I'm the best teacher because 500,000 people are following me on Instagram. No, that's not the core value. The core that are you actually carrying that love with yourself? Are you actually carrying that expression with yourself? Do you actually motivate people of actually changing themselves? Or are you just in that narcissistic need to be guru, to be like the teacher, to be, the boss? There's that double-edged sword in this world.
Thank you. Stephen raised a very different perspective to it. He said, yes, spirituality can contribute, but he mentioned that caution first, caution of spiritual arrogance, caution of spiritual escape, that at times for some people it is an escape. And he also mentioned that you are not good to the next door neighbor, and you're talking about goodness to the two countries. So it is always easy to tell that these two countries should not fight with each other, but I'm fighting with the next door neighbor. So, how much open am I about these things? And spirituality can go in that direction also if it is not handled properly. So, this is the flop side of it, that this may also happen if you don't handle it properly. Let's go to Cosmin. Cosmin, in the flip side of it, how spirituality can contribute?
I think, like Sheena said, it's a problem of understanding the nature. First, we have to understand the nature, how the nature is working since millennia, or I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years, and how we came here, and what is our reaction to the nature, and what is the nature reaction in our actions, and so on. So I think there is before speaking about spirituality, we have to understand the core of the spirituality, which is the nature, and the nature of man and the woman. Also, it has to be understood, which is which is the quality, which is the place where we have to put these two big pieces of puzzle into the puzzle of the life. So I think one of the most important thing is that we have to go back to the nature, and we have to perceive the nature like it is, and by perceiving the nature, we can integrate in our daily life the characteristic and the laws which are natural. It's the nature itself which is expressing through us. And I think spirituality nowadays, it's wrong understood, and it's such a big circus which is happening right now all over the world, with all these practices which are very wrong understood. Like, the Bible, if you read the Bible, it's such a beautiful book, or another book, but it's wrong it's wrong interpreted. It's interpreted with the mind. It's interpreted with our memories, and that memories are the memories which are stored since millennia. So we have to go very deep in this
Cosmin added another point in discussion. He said, why spirituality may fail, because if the scriptures are misinterpreted, then it can be most dangerous. So that's amazing thing. And going back to the nature may help. And that takes us back to what Sheena ji said earlier. In nature, when I was an animal, a lion used to threaten my identity and my survival, and I used to react. Now I live in the concrete jungle, and my boss is the new lion, and he threatens my survival in the organization, and he is not open minded. I also react to him, he also react to me. So how to deal with this threat perception, Sheena? How to
Well,
remove this threat perception?
I have an answer. So if I just take it back a little, the whole thing with spirituality is understanding that a spirit is consciousness, and there's consciousness in every living being. So if you as a human connect to the consciousness within yourself, you understand that you are consciousness, and that your boss or other people's bosses, that when they start to speak and they say something that doesn't fit with you, once you are spiritual and you've entered that thing of connecting with your consciousness, you look at their actions and you realize that their actions are their conditioned mind. And you begin to become open-minded because you look at them and you go, okay, where is that coming from in him? What is his story? You don't react, you don't shut down, you don't get defensive. You understand that it is his perspective that is based on his history, and it's not attacking you, it's just his mind. And so once you are spiritual and spiritual enters your life, you can then view the world around you from the lens of knowing that all these different opinions, all these different perspectives are just perspectives of other people, and they're allowing you to understand those people. So instead of getting angry and closing down, you use it as a challenge to go, let me learn how that mind works. What is the source of it? What is the base? And maybe when I understand where it came from, either they were raped as a child or came through a war zone or a refugee, you can then begin to connect with them on a different level. So I think spirituality is very important for us to remove ourselves from the external world, connect to ourselves internally, and then sit back and just observe.
Nice.
And use it as a way for us to connect to each other and understand each other.
So Sheena reminds me of one of the stories of Upanishads. Two birds, and one bird is higher consciousness, another is lower consciousness. She said, when you rise in consciousness, then the sight is absolutely different. And she said that when you see yourself as subordinate, another person will be boss. But when you see yourself as consciousness, then another person is also consciousness. So how do you see yourself will define how do you see others. And seeing yourself in the right picture is called spirituality. Amazingly said, Sheena. And she also added, it reminds me of Raman Maharshi once said that somebody asked him that whether God is in form or not, without form. Raman Maharshi replied, it depends. If you think you are a form, God is in form. If you think you are not a form, God is not in form. So Sheena mentioned the importance of rising in consciousness. That will lead to removal of that threat, and that will make us open. Now the big question comes is, how do I rise in consciousness? Because consciousness is not at all in the syllabus of the kids, Stephen. Stephen mentioned that when we were kids, we were taught this, but there is never a subject of consciousness in schools. How to raise in consciousness then, Stephen?
So basically, let's go with the word spiritualism. So spiritualism comes from the root spirit, right? And spirit is like something which is kind of moving us along. So there's always like some part, like mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, physical health. But then like when you go with inspirium, expirium. So basically the breath itself is a really good way to connect with our spirit. But still that can cause us to be like more observant. Just because like in psychology, there is something called an observer. So basically, like when we feel the reaction or when we even react, we have to have somebody who is an observer, not the criticist. So this comes like from super ego, from our id, from something which is like the words of our parents, of our caregivers. When you go with the perspective of like just the observer, of like if I feel triggered by somebody saying, for example, when Sheena said about male and female like equality, when you feel triggered because of something, feel why do you feel triggered? What is that in your root, in your core that you feel triggered? And one of the best ways, of course, like inspirium, expirium, like the breath itself, to bring us back to the spirit, bring us back to the present moment, and then we can actually be an active observer. Therefore, we can actually grow as a person and be more and more open-minded along the way, but open-minded towards ourselves, not towards the people. Because when you're open-minded towards ourselves, when we feel from which position we react towards other people, then we can know, okay, now I don't need to react anymore because this was my wound as I was growing up because of this and that. Doesn't matter. I just do not need to react from this position. I'm not going to react from the position of a grown Stefan, or a grown person, not from the position of a child. So,
Nice.
Inspirium, Experium.
Nicely mentioned. Stephen G mentioned a couple of tips for us to how to be open-minded. I'll come to Cosmin G. Cosmin G, Stephen G mentioned connect with the breath. Breath and life go together. Be observer. Be aware about your triggers and be open-minded about yourself first. What are your tips? How can I get uplifted consciousness?
I have something that is coming from my practice, and I don't know how to say. I reached the point when I realized that you cannot control anything, and the breath is controlling you, and there are some things that you can understand, like driving a car or having a meal or something. This very logical and simple things. But I reach a point that there is an intelligence which is moving this life since millennia, and that intelligence it cannot be understood, in my opinion. It's a play. You have to be open. You have to practice good deeds, and you have to be in actions very clear and very open and very, very quiet. And by bringing quietness into the senses and mind, and cleanness into the body, I think that intelligence is creating naturally through yourself. It's not a tip. It's just you have to be authentic, and you have to find your way of expressing, because someone is expressing through the sports, someone is expressing through spirituality, through yoga, through, I don't know, fishing contests, as a medicine. I don't know, many things that can happen through us, and we can be artists in everything. So that is the moment, and the tip, the basic tip and the core tip of finding the connection with our authenticity to
Thank you very much, Cosmin G. Thank you. Now we got Gabriel G back. So let me ask him, and then I'll come to Sheena G. Gabriel G, the question in hand is how to rise in consciousness. So if you want a couple of, yes, how to rise in consciousness. Gabriel G, question to you is how to rise in consciousness. Any quick tips without elaborations?
Hi, yes. Good morning.
It is a difficult question for a person who
really
just
happy to be here because the first step was because I was with difficult issues, connect issues, and could you repeat the answer, please?
Okay, I'll come to you with the question. The question is how to rise in consciousness. Sheena Ji, I'll ask the question for
yes.
you.
Okay. How to rise our consciousness? There are different ways because consciousness is very important, because in terms of spiritually, maybe it's being open-minded can allow us to explore and consider different spiritual beliefs and practices. So I begin from my body, because there is a base, corporal support for everything. And I begin with my body, always. And then, since this corporal support, you can work everything. And this corporal support means not work only, the actual neuroscience speaks about seven senses, no? A part of the five senses, we are talking about the proprioception and the interoception, and are not only neuronal receptors. There is a deeply receptor about our body, and we can work since this body, since the posture, the asana, the breathing, all the tips that we have to begin or to continue, because we began time ago to continue this open-minded, this work of in our minds.
Thank you, Gabriel ji. He mentioned.
I begin since my body. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gabriel ji mentioned that start with body, command on asanas, and connect with the breath. Sheena ji, the question again comes back to you. What are the practical tips for the audience? How can I rise in consciousness?
So I'll be very quick. Obviously, people who are listening to this are practicing yoga or some sort of journey. So what I told all my students this morning was two things. First of all, this week, choose a class that you looked at and said, I didn't want to do. So choose a class that makes you feel uncomfortable, not the one you wanted to do. And today, when you wake up, do something that makes you feel incredibly uncomfortable. And when you enter it, don't enter it with your thinking mind, but with your feeling body. And just listen to what that experience is like for you. Because the raising of consciousness comes from raising of awareness of yourself. So the only tip I can give you today to start off with is just do something that makes you feel uncomfortable. And then understand why it made you feel uncomfortable and take that journey into yourself. Eat something that you normally dislike, drink something that you said you didn't like change your mindset and do things that you would normally not do, and then just understand why you decide not to do them, and then how you feel when you do. You probably will surprise yourself that you actually liked what you didn't like.
That's nice. Thank you very much. And Gabriel ji, because you joined us late, I can again give you 1 minute for specific one or two more points. If you can suggest us a couple of more points, how to rise in consciousness. One thing you mentioned about asanas, breathing, any specific practical tools you would like to suggest?
Obviously, the traditions talks about asanas, breathing, but asana means sit comfortable. I am agree with this. Sit comfortable and means to be to accept. If I accept my body, I accept my structure, I accept my different levels of my mind, because we have a level like the gunas, like the sattvic mind, the tamasic mind. We are in this moment. We are trying a sattvic mind. We are working a sattvic mind. I love this moment for this. Previously, I have had a little bit issue to get into this meeting. I was ready 15 minutes after, but impossible issue. And where was my tamasic mind? But I am getting again the sattvic mind. So how mind is all time in the Andean philosophy. We have the three pachas: the Alaf Pacha, Aka Pacha, Manka Pacha, a basic world, an intermediate universe, and subtle spiritual universe. So maybe we can work more time, not always, obviously, this spiritual mind, this sattvic mind.
Thank you very
But
much,
the base
Gabriel.
is our body, our
In
breathing,
the interest of the time, I
our
have to, yes. So in the
asana.
interest of
Yes.
the time, let's conclude what we discussed. Gabriel ji also gave his input. So we started our discussion mentioning about, Sheena ji mentioned that what exactly makes a person close-minded. She said that the attachment with the objects and the false identity makes people close-minded. When some person attacks on my possessions, I take it as the attack on me. She said that one of those examples is gender divide also. If when somebody attacks, I feel insecure, and the identity feels threatened. How to deal with that threat, how to remove the threat. Sheena ji mentioned that conditioning. Whenever a person is saying something, don't listen to the words only, go beyond it with the spirit consciousness. See that what was the conditioning of the person. You don't know his story, you don't know from where he's coming, what all made his opinion, and then you will be more compassionate towards that person, because the person is the product of his own life experiences. She also said that identify the triggers, what you don't like. Those are the triggers from where your exploration may begin. And these triggers may be what you eat, drink, or anything. Whatever you are not liking today, go for it. Face the brutes. Stephen G said that kids from the childhood, a synthetic self is given to us. And we don't want to listen further more. Anything that is threatening the synthetic self, a defense mechanism covers it. And that's why it is very much important that I need to define myself in the right spirit. And he said the solution to the threat is a spirituality, but there is a threat to spirituality itself. And the threat is that you may become spiritually arrogant, spiritual escape, and people become, they are not good to the next door neighbors and they are talking high things. So these are the spiritual risks that people go through. And then, as a solution, he said, if you want to elevate in consciousness, one is connect with your breath, be observer of your behavior, be aware of the triggers, and fourth is be first open-minded towards yourself, accept yourself. Kosminji mentioned that if you want to know whether the person is really open-minded, see whether is he listening carefully or you're not, and whether he's open to accept all the ideas which he doesn't appreciate, but still is he receiving it. But adopting those ideas in life is a matter of choice. You receive it openly, and then you decide what to accept finally. Or know your true nature. And he said, in the name of spiritualism, lots of circus is going on. And the circus is because of the misinterpretation of the scriptures. And that is why the spiritual arrogance may happen. He suggested that you can't control everything. Live life as an instrument. And there is a bigger universal intelligence that is making things happen. And we are the byproduct of the same universal intelligence that connects us, that feeling of surrender to the divine. And then our friend Gabriel ji mentioned that you may like to start with your body and connect with the breath and start thinking with the sattvic mind. It's the rajasic and tamasic mind that makes people struggle, but the sattvic mind makes us really open-minded. I'm sure, friends, that we were enough open-minded in our discussion, and listening us, you will also feel some glimpses of open-mindedness with the spirituality. My thanks to all honorable guests. I wish we could have 1 hour of panel discussion. I was so interested to listen, but now we don't have time. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
I feel honored to welcome our guest, Mr. Valdemar Parado. He has been a member of World Association for former United Nations Interns and Fellows, and since 2003 as a Senior Research Fellow in Science and Technology for Development, and currently serving as an Executive Vice President of the organization. He has been teaching and on research positions at several universities in Mexico, Latin America, and US. During this time, he has been involved in developing and implementing technology solutions for development in emerging and developing countries. held professorship in physics, mathematics, computer science, biomedical science, and technology. He have been commissioned to participate in the different forums and conferences at ECO, SOC, DPI, and WSIS in topics related with the impact of ITCs and development, as well as the transfer of technology at the United Nations. He also have been involved and consulted in financing for development projects for communities in several regions of the world. He also have been consultant, advisor, and facilitator for science and technology transfer for the government of Chile, Colombia, Peru, Dominican Republic, Honduras, Bolivia, Costa Rica, Panama, Venezuela, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Brazil, and Mexico. Also in the areas of creation of local capacities. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Waldemar Prado.
Hi, hold on for a second, please. I'm trying to find my image. Okay, I would like to start with a very famous prayer. It says in Sanskrit, Asatoma Sadkamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityoma Mritam Gamaya. From the unreal, lead me to the real. From the darkness, lead me to the light. From death, lead me to immortality. Hi, everybody. I'm very honored to participate in this event. And my topic today is spirituality and self-control. In order to start this dissertation, I think it's important to understand several things previously to defining our topic, since self-control has been preached in many religions from endless times. And usually spirituality has been confused with religiousness. And they are two different things. In this case, most religions preach some form of self-control. But in many cases, because they don't explain the mechanism that act upon us, they end up confusing self-control with repression. And it's very important that we don't do in this talk. So that's why it's important to understand the mechanism behind our impulses, our biological impulses, and also the difference between repression and a healthy self-control, which is necessary for society to live. In the process of psychological development, we go through several stages. And these stages have been recognized in modern science, but also since ancient times in many of the Eastern traditions. According to Eastern traditions, in the first 7 years of life, we catch up with what we left in our past lives. So the first years of life, we use them in order to catch up or to come back to where we were before we died. And in modern psychology, the process of psychological development goes through several stages. There are many models, but I'm going to just mention the one that is most widely accepted. When we are born, we have all the potential in the process of developing, there are several stages in which we are presented with obstacles. And naturally, if we grow healthy, then we have all the energy to come across these obstacles. In many cases, because of the circumstances, because our previous karmas or our previous lives, we don't have these resources and either the environment or internal psychologically situations, we cannot overcome these obstacles. And then we develop ways around these obstacles in order to continue to grow physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When we develop these instances of overcoming these obstacles, we develop neurotic processes for the obstacles that we cannot overcome. And these neurotic processes are the ones that basically veil our lives with many different problems. Basically, those are the things that make us unhappy. And in the process of becoming healthy, we have to overcome these obstacles. We have to find ways of bringing them to the consciousness and work on them through forms of self-control. In this process, there are several stages, as I mentioned, that form with our personality. We are born in a family, in a religion, in a political environment, whatever. And as we go through the process of growth, things are given to us. We are given a name, a last name, a family name. We are given a language, an ideology, etc. And this set of factors build on us what we call the personality or the character. And in other words, there are some internal pulsions, mainly biological, to be in certain way, to react to the environment in certain way. But we learn through society education that certain things are not permitted in society because they are detrimental to the person and to the society. So we are educated in a certain way, and we end up having some internal pulsions to be a certain way, and then there's another superstructure that is built upon us, which tells us to control ourselves. And this can happen, this control can be, as I mentioned, it can be natural, it can be in form of repression, or it can be brought in a healthy way. So when we are born, basically the first part that is built upon us is the part that is very linked to the biological processes. And in many schools of psychology, they call it the id, which means in something like in Latin means that's what it is. And basically, is a very important component of personality. And is the source of bodily needs, wants, emotional impulses, and desires, especially aggression and libido, or sex drive. The id is always acting according to the pleasure principle. The psychic forces oriented to immediate gratification of impulses and desire, and also of aggression. And of course, the avoidance of pain. And in general, psychologically, is considered that this is mainly unconscious. So as we grow, we start throwing these things back into our subconscious. But also in our spirit, in our soul, there's the impulse to become better human beings. And so at the same time, we come naturally with this instinctual part. We also come with another part, or another part is formed, as I mentioned, through society education, or family education, or religion education. We are told that we must control ourselves. But funny enough, not everybody comes with the same potential, but also with the same capabilities. Because of karmic reasons, because of circumstances in the karmic of our society or of our family. And then another structure. So there is the id and the superego that basically is created through society in order to help us gain self-control. And then in the middle of the two, just juggling between the two is what is called the ego or the I. And it acts according to the reality principle. It seeks the pleasure of the I's drive in realistic ways that in the long term bring benefit rather than grief. At the same time, many psychologists consider that the ego attempts to mediate between the id and the reality, and is often forced to cloak the unconscious to its own precocious rationalizations to conceal or to give up with the conflicts of the ego and the superego. Okay, in the Western psychology, this is the image. Okay, it is amazing that for instance, in the Vedantic tradition, we are driven by mainly two, let's say, instinctual drives. The drive for power and recognition, and the drive for pleasure. In this, this basically is similar to what we study in Western psychology. And then there is another part in which we are taught to live a dharmic life, a life with principles, moral principles. And in order to tame these other two parts, the kama or the pleasure, and also the drive for power and selfishness, and the drive for money or material goods that is called artha in the Vedantic tradition. And if we live a dharmic life, that will help us to get to what's called a moksha or liberation. We can liberate ourselves from pain and suffering, and we achieve liberation. Okay, and something that is very important is understand how the human being is built in the Samkhya tradition or in the Eastern traditions. In the Eastern traditions, we are taught that our mind, we identify ourselves, we believe ourselves to be the thoughts of our mind, our body, our feelings or emotions, but we are none of this. These are just instruments that we are given in order to experience the world. And so in the Eastern tradition, there is something that is called the antakarana, or the whole psychological process, including emotions and thoughts and so forth. The antakarana basically has four elements. The ahankara, which it identifies the Atman or the self with the body as the I, or the sense of I-ness. The attachment or identification of the ego, also known as the I-ness. And then we have the buddhi, which is the intellect, the decision-making part of the mind, the part that is able to discern the truth from falsehood and thereby to make wisdom possible. And the third element is called the manas, which, by the way, the word mind in the Western tradition comes from this word, the lower rational part of the mind that connects with the external world and controls the sankalpa, or the will or the capacity to take decisions. It is also the faculty of doubt and volition, and is the seat of desire and governor of sensory and motor organs. And then finally, the chitta, or the memory, the conscious, or the part of the consciousness where impressions and memories are experienced, are stored in part that deals with remembering and forgetting. And then on top of this, there are basically three stages of consciousness: the Jagrat, or the waking state, the Svapana, or the dream state, and the Shushupati, or the deep state. Ahankara works in the first two, in the waking state and in the dream state. And in the deep sleep state, basically we go unconscious. It doesn't affect the inner vehicle or the inner instrument doesn't affect this last part. So in the Eastern tradition, it's considered that the mind, okay, is continuously flowing from one thought to another, and we tend to identify ourselves with these trains of thoughts. And basically, there are several techniques or ways of overcoming this process. And one of them is basically training the mind to be stable, training the mind to concentrate, train the mind not to let the mind drive away with any thought that comes to us. And so it doesn't, basically the techniques had to do with practices such as meditation, the practice of asanas, the practice of pranayama, and some other techniques that have to do with the control of the body. In the Western tradition, it has been discovered that in our process of growth, many of the neurotic processes get nested or stored in the body. The body is like the reservoir of our frustrations and things that we could not overcome. And it becomes in what is called muscular shields. And there are some techniques, especially in Hatha Yoga, in which you take out these knots that form in your body and they give shape to the body. And by doing so, this energy that we're stored in these parts of our body comes surface to the conscious thought, and then it's possible to resolve them. It's possible to overcome the neurotic processes that we didn't do in our infancy. And also, Ashtanga Yoga proposes that in order to be a practitioner of yoga or to look for liberation, to samadhi, there are certain principles that we must follow, and those are called yamas and niyamas. And yamas basically are things that we should not do, that should avoid doing, like not lying, not stealing, not misusing our enemies, and etc. And yamas are things that we have to practice. We have to practice meditation. We have to practice cleanliness of thought. We have to practice good deeds. We have to practice study. We have to study the scriptures, and we have to practice with a teacher or with the guru to guide us through the process. So, in the Eastern tradition, there are techniques that are aimed so that we can have a healthy self-control in order to allow our true spirituality, our true consciousness to surface into our lives. In the Eastern traditions, there are specifically two practices in the Ashtanga Yoga, which is Dharana and Dhyana, that help us to train the mind so that the mind doesn't drive us or doesn't drive our, by the trains of thoughts, our feelings and our actions. And especially concentration and meditation, the two previous steps to samadhi, are the ones that are aimed in this respect. Because if we allow this process, this neurotic process to take over our lives, it will be mainly to give yield to our id, our biological part, our instinctual part, that is looking for pleasure and for self-gratification, and it can become violent and also self-centered. So when we do this process in order, then we will be able to achieve liberation. And basically, there is one part in our mental construct that is the one that makes decisions. And this is important. All the others are techniques, are means of achieving something, but they are not the goal. The goal is to achieve self-control in order to have the mind be peaceful and reach enlightenment. This is my dissertation. Thank you.
Vladimir ji, it's such a pleasure and privilege to listen to your words. I always feel that the knowledge is universal, and holistic. Sometimes we call it as psychology, sometimes spirituality. You beautifully combined the findings of the modern psychology, neurology with the Vedantic yogic tradition. Once again, thank you very much and namaste.
Namaste.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Mr. Waldemar Parado for coming onto the platform of United Consciousness and sharing his views. Thank you so much. On behalf of United Consciousness, I feel delighted to welcome our next guest, who is an inspirational speaker, visionary life coach, and humanitarian at heart. Her vision is to awaken gratitude, consciousness, inspire everyone to live a happy, thriving, and abundant life. She is Ms. Jyotima Prasad. She is founder and CEO of Gratitude and Abundance, the chairperson of Mentorship Committee at the Princeton Foundation for Peace and Learning, and chairperson of the Human Relation Council for West Windsor Township. In these roles, she helps people at organizations and around the globe using the power of gratitude to attain new levels of contentment, happiness, and peace. The purpose behind her work is to empower, inspire, and uplift every soul she comes across. At a very young age, she was diagnosed with a rare purseless disease which made her realize the healing power of gratitude. Her personal transformation journey from a finance professional to a visionary life coach is in finding life's true purpose and having the passion to pursue it. She continues to plant seeds of gratitude through various practices like individual and kids coaching, organizational seminars, community workshops, and keynote speeches. Her message and mantra is love all, serve all, help ever, hurt never. Bonded with love and gratitude. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Recently, she received 2022 Woman of Achievement Award for her invaluable selfless contribution for the community. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Ms. Jyotima Prasad.
Namaste, Jyotima ji. Seems your microphone is on mute.
Namaste, everyone. Om Sai Ram. Deep gratitude to the team of Global United Consciousness and bringing us all together. When I see today, when we are concluding this 2-day, this is the consciousness that we are talking. Loka Samasta, Sukhina Bhavantu. This last 2 days, this global united consciousness has brought so many souls together and awakened the divinity within, and giving the message that we are part of one consciousness, one world, one family. All the speakers, the eminent, illuminated speakers who were speaking here, they were talking about only one thing. We all come from one source and we will all merge too. The only thing that once we are ignorant, we are not aware of the truth. My life lesson of taking this purpose of life of gratitude and abundance was an awakening where I realized that every breath which I'm taking is a gift, and the response to it is only gratitude. Every session from last 2 days where Thomas sir has taken, spirituality was a common thing in every aspect of life. And when we talk about spirituality, it's connecting to soul. We are so much confused that We are human and we have to learn spirituality. But the truth is, we are all souls having a human experience. We are larger than life. What we think as a body, mind, we are much bigger than that. And every problem that we face in life is because of that ignorance. Once we connect to the source that we call one, whatever name we want to give, the higher intelligence, who is running everything. This earth is only one planet. There are multi universe which is moving in a perfect divine order. The sun which is shining bright and the light which is shining on all of us, that is the grace which we can receive. We all have that access to it. But if we close our window, that light cannot shine. So when we open our heart, we surrender ourselves to the divine and the higher consciousness. Everything flows through us. We just become an instrument of divine. We are all divine soul. And when we get enlightened and we get that light, our purpose of life becomes to light our fellow human beings all across the globe. So many, right now is the time of transformation for this divine energy flowing through all of us, raising the vibration of this planet and awaken everybody to have a conscious living. And nothing better than full of gratitude. Every breath we take, the oxygen, the most precious thing on this planet Earth is free, which we never realize. But 2 years back, the entire world was shaken, where oxygen was the most important thing, where so many people, human, lost their life. But do we remember that? Or we have forgotten? Every breath is a gift. Human birth is the highest evolution, the intellect we got. God thought that I'm representing myself and I'll be sending all my people there to represent myself. I have made such a beautiful creation and they will be talking about me. But we got busy talking about our own self. We got lost about our own identity, my name, my fame, my money, my possession, forgetting that we are simply a traveler. How many people, billions and billions of people, have crossed the planet Earth? They traveled, they did the work, and they have gone. And we will also go. We simply are the travelers. We are renting this earth. And the response, when we get everything here, our response, what can I give? Everything. Our ancestors, ancient wisdom, parents, teachers, gurus, they have given so much to us. But when we stop there, just taking, we start feeling suffocated. And that's what the world is feeling right now. The problem is what we have created, and we have the solution within ourselves. Getting back to our source, getting back to our root. And the two pillars of life, having faith and patience. Faith is something which, if you're unable to believe, just simply put your hands on your heart and there's a rhythm. Even when you sleep, the heart is beating, your oxygen is going. So till you have your last breath, that faith is unshakable. The same faith, when there is a moon in the night, you wait till there's a sun comes back. There is a rain to give shower to all the trees and plants where we don't go and give the shower. So there is somebody very on a higher level is working and taking care of everything. We have our own responsibility. We all got our own role to play here. Even a small fly runs to different flowers to collect honey and give it back. So every creation of the universe is playing their role, the purpose. But we as a human, just identifying as an ego self, we get lost. And there is nothing wrong in it. That is why our sages, there's so much wisdom, the tools have been given that we can get back to ourselves, connecting to our source, knowing. And as Tomar sir said, spirituality and law of karma. We all have come to this university of this universe. We have to learn our own lesson. Let go of what is not divine. What is not divine? Greed is not divine. Ego is not divine. Anger is not divine. Resentment is not divine. Jealousy is not divine. Scarcity is not divine. What is divine is pure love, unconditional love, infinite abundance. There is so much compassion, kindness, generosity, grace. This is all love. This is all the vibration. We are all the instrument of divine. And when we empty ourselves with all this, the cleansing, this is called cleansing. Once we cleanse ourselves, divine walks through us. Whatever I speak, whatever I do, everything is a gifted. Even my thoughts, words, and action, my mind, body, soul, everything is a gift to me. It is just being used because I allow myself. I surrendered completely. Because there was a time where you can only do a limited. Human has a limited. But when you make a partnership with divine, you can be unlimited being. And that is what it is called, faith and patience. Working towards yourself, being in partnership with divine consciousness, and seeing divine in every being, using tools of gratitude, forgiveness, and unconditional love. That is what the world needs right now. So if you see somebody being very rude, very rough, you have to feel that the person has lost his divine or her divine self. How can I make the person remember? How somebody is struggling and suffering, how can I heal with love? Simply with a prayer, even we are very far off, the vibration, we are all energy beings sitting here and we are talking to the entire globe right now. So when we rise in the higher consciousness, the entire globe, this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, this entire family becomes one. We are not separate. Ramana Maharshi, somebody asked Ramana Maharshi, how I deal with others. He said, who are others? We are not separated. We are all interconnected and interdependent. And to give an answer to that, billions of years, the same water is running all everywhere. It's just changing the form, which I must have drank, gone out, is changed the form. So the same water, the earth is holding, the 3/4 is the water and still moving around. Think about that. Is nourishing 8 billion people right now. There is enough for all. And the fear is the major thing. When we are so fearful, all the emotions of greed, scarcity, lack, control, it all comes from there. But when we have faith and love, everything opens up. The family, when we start from our home, my mom, my dad, my husband, my kid, when you are thinking about their welfare, and then my neighbors, my community, my city, my country, and the world. This is how we open our heart and allow everybody to come together. And love is that healing force, that unconditional love. And the response for everything in life is gratitude. We exist here. Are so many ancestors have been gone to reach us sit here. How many people have worked to make the technology work where I'm sitting somewhere and we are connected through globe? So many people have worked where we stand today, and the response is all gratitude. Only thank you. In every language, this is such a powerful and a very small prayer. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for single breath. And the second response is, how can I give back? How can I serve? How can I help? If I've received something, it's like if only we can inhale and there is no exhale, we'll suffocate. It's a law, giving and receiving cycle, inhaling and exhaling. And there is enough, whatever we need in life, it is all there. Like if you see an example of an ocean, if you have a consciousness of little, you can take a spoon and get to yourself. Water will remain the same. If you increase little, you can go with a glass, you can get the glass. Water remains the same. If you can have a bucket, go and have the bucket. You can get a drum as you grow up. But if you have a consciousness, you can put a pipe, and this is an unlimited supply. That is why when you respond life with gratitude, there is abundance for everything. Love, peace, joy, happiness, prosperity. We thrive together. We all came. It was such a beautiful plan that everything is in a purpose. There is no accidents here. It's a master plan. And just that there should be no confusion, God also decided us to give a unique thing. We got a unique identification code that's called our thumbprint. But we get so lost comparing with each other. We cannot compare ourselves. We are such a unique personality. We have come for our own purpose. What gift I have to nurture it, find it out, and give it back to the world. This is the unique identity. We represent God in different forms with different gifts and different talents. there's a purpose that we have to fulfill. We have to be our authentic self, so that even God gets happy that the purpose which I said is fulfilled, and we can go back happily. Every night when we can go to bed and say, I did my best, you do the rest. Because there are things that I'll not be able to do, but I know you can do it. So every human here is for a purpose, and we are all interconnected with each other, and how we can bring light in each other's life so that the person knows their divine self. That's the only reminder we have to give it to each other, and being the light in the world, and represent God in the best way the God needs to be represented. We are all one world, one family, bonded with love and gratitude, and we are all connected with the invisible force of love. That's the only thing that bonds us all together. All our sufferings, everything, discomfort, disease, discord is like this. There is a disconnection. And when we start connecting, it becomes harmony, peace, love, joy, prosperity. In Lakshmi, there's a lot of problem for the money people think about, the wealth. We have to hoard it. Lakshmi, not even understanding the meaning of Lakshmi in Sanskrit, Lakshya. If you have a purpose, it will follow you. You should have the purity where there is no greed. Your intentions are pure. Everything, you become such a magnetic personality that you don't have to chase anything. It flows through you. It's ease, grace, and joy. Simply, we are like a river flowing from one source. In between, we'll have obstacles of stone will be there, dust will be there. Without just making our way with grace and merging ourselves with the ocean, that is called one consciousness, and with the divinity, we represent ourselves as a divine consciousness in individual. Just like the sun, every ray falls on the earth to nurture and nourish. We are all here representing the higher consciousness. And response to life should be only gratitude, only thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for every lesson. Thank you for every message. Thank you for every human, because everyone is a teacher. And when we are open to learn, we can receive all the messages of divine, and we can live a life of Sat, Chit, Anand. This is called bliss that you have to experience. It's not that Jyotama is saying. It's an experience, because you have seen the pain, the suffering, and now you can see your life being in bliss. That's why you want that everybody deserves to live a happy, abundant, peaceful, thriving, prosperous life. And this is the prayer that we should pray for everyone in the morning. Let us bring the world together and pray. Loka samastha sukhina bhavantu. May all be happy, all be healthy, all be peaceful, all be prosperous, and may all feel the love of the divine, so that they can shine their divine self and bring the light in the world.
Jyotima ji, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming to this platform and giving this wonderful message. You connected the dots so nicely. You talked about the universal order that connects everything and operates without fail. And you provided nice techniques, how to get connected with that, and how to be sensitive to that, and how to live a healthy, happy, and a contented life. Wonderful message. Thank you very much.
Deep gratitude to all of you and the United Consciousness team for raising this vibration of this universe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Ms. Jyotima Prasad for coming onto the platform of United Consciousness. Thank you so much. Our next guest is Keleahana Silve, who is hula artist and choreographer. She always sought to promote Hawaiian culture abroad. She founded the first Hawaiian dance school in France, Halau Hula o Menau, named after the valley in which she was born. After 30 years in Paris, she returned to Hawaii and continues to teach Haumana in Alaska and China. Through her classes at Kapiolena Hospital Women's Center and the Salvation Army's drug recovery program, she has become a pioneer in the promising new field of hula for health. She also participated in the annual Talk Story Festival in Honolulu and released a CD of Hawaii tales, chants, and music.
Aloha! My name is Kilohana Silv from Halau Hula o Manoa, and I welcome you on United Consciousness Conclave 2022, organized by United Consciousness Global. I am here in Honolulu, Hawaii, to share a hula with you. I am going to take you to the island of Hawaii, to the Bay of Kona, and I am going to share a hula kala'au, danced with these sticks. And this hula is all about the connection that man has with nature. That is the expression of hula always. All of the movements, even the sound of the voice, seeks to recreate the beauty of nature. Ai konakai o puai kalai pa. Konakai, konakai o puai kalai o puai nano ikamai. Konakai, konakai o puai kalai o puai nano kamai. Hiolo, hiolo navai ake ke au ke na hula na kamai. Kauhi, kauhi anai ke kukunala ula kolele ika ilikai. Pumehana, pumehana vale ho ikia aina alohana kinia o lulu. Haina, haina kainoa ho kuulani no liho liho no la e noa. Haina, haina kainoa ho kuulani no liho liho no la e noa. E noa no liho liho.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Ms. Keliahana Silve for coming onto the platform of United Consciousness and giving such a beautiful performance. Thank you so much.
Namaste, everyone. On behalf of the United Consciousness and Project Self Bharat and Project Self USA, it's my pleasure to thank you, every one of you, each performer, each presenter, and all of you who participated in watching this from across the globe, and for making this a successful event. So my dear friend, Dr. Vikrant Singh began with a powerful message, an opening message, with that question from that 6-year-old boy. Why is there so much dichotomy in this world? And all answers point in the same direction, as you have watched these 3 years. In fact, I would even go to this extent of saying that from each person, I think we could have learned for 3 hours and still could be learning more. That's how powerful each presenter was. Again, my dear friend Sanjay introduced. Thank you for that. He gave us 3 powerful quotes from Martin Luther King and Buddha himself, and a French philosopher about connecting with yourself and being one with the true nature of who we are. Thank you, Your Holiness Tattvamayananda Ji, for telling us about depression, how spirituality can be the only viable answer. Medications, he said, may not work permanently. It may be only a temporary solution. But at the bottom line is we have to find a solution within ourselves. How do we do that? By being spiritual. What is being spiritual? Being selfless and practicing karma yoga and kriya yoga. And then we heard from Yogi Baba Adnan, and he talked about spirituality and optimism. Optimism is the only way to go forward. If you're a pessimist, you're doomed. You're destined to be sad and depressed and incapable of doing what you're supposed to do in life. So this unending desires destroy your inner peace, he said. So instead, compassion, kindness, and love, all these things help you regain peace and oneness. And I really like his quote from Albert Einstein because I'm a person of science myself. And what can I say about Dr. Vibhudija's presentation? He was extremely practical, and one thing that he mentions is really stood out for me. That is, character and competence do not go hand in hand. They're not commensurate with each other. And Dr. Ashish Gadekar, thank you so much for telling us about spirituality and humility. You have to learn how to be humble in order to be able to connect with other people. And he said, have the courage to share. What a powerful statement. And the feeling of abundance, he reminded us, is a relative statement. So one may be happy and feel abundant with 1,000 rupees in his pocket or her pocket. Others may not, with tens of millions of dollars or rupees in their pockets. So it's not about materialistic wealth that makes you ultimately happy. It's about being able to connect with your true self. What can I say about my dear friend, Dr. Vikrant Singh, who really laid out very plainly, clearly, the law of karma. Karma doesn't actually mean punishment, as he reminded us. So Baba and Punya, right? I mean, you reap what you sow. That is a very, very practical advice that all of us can take home and act upon. And I really enjoyed, as everyone else, I'm sure, the panel by we had Sheena Patel, we had Stefan Ivanovich. I apologize if I mispronounce any names. And then Gabriel Arazola, and then Cosmin Konstantin. And they all emphasize the need to be open-minded. How can we be open-minded? Again, all answers point to spirituality. Spirituality is, according to every single speaker, is seeing beyond what is obvious, seeing beyond the sensory reality that we can all touch and feel and taste and smell. So I personally am amazed by the unanimity of the message of such diverse people from different backgrounds and different cultures and across nationalities as well. So thank you so much for that, panelists. And then Dr. Waldemar Prado eloquently explained the need for self-control. How do you achieve self-control? Again, he came to us from a science point of view, the neurological changes that are made when you make sacrifices, when you overcome obstacles, which in fact reinforces your commitment to be good and to do good. This is essential for our spiritual growth. And Jyotima Prasad ji, I'm deeply moved by what you said at the beginning of your presentation. Loga samasta sukhino bhavantu. Exactly. This is a prayer everyone, every living being should say at the every single day. It's not enough that you personally are happy. You're just a traveler, as you were saying. You're renting this place. It's not yours. You don't take anything with you when you go, and you came to this world without anything. Such powerful and loving and really applicable message. Thank you so much for that. And finally, the hula, that sends a real special positive vibe to everyone who was watching. It actually speaks volumes to the ability of spirituality to connect people across cultures, across national boundaries, and across any sort of barriers. So break down these barriers. That's all what United Consciousness is about. We are all one, and oneness, as my dear friend Sanjay said at the opening remark, is the answer. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day or wonderful night, depending on where you are in this world. And please continue to join us and learn from each other. And of course, give us feedback so we can serve you better. Thank you. Have a great day. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you very much, everybody watching us from different parts of the world. On behalf of Project Self Incorporation USA, Bharat, and United Consciousness, we really want to thank you and our all respected guests from different parts of the world who joined us on 17th and 18th. We want to thank them. We want to also thank G20, Government of India, to have entrusted us with this responsibility to conduct this event and have supported them, to given us an opportunity to support G20 mission. Thank you very much. Rajeshji.
No, I just want to echo the same feeling. It's such a great experience to join and have a portfolio of panelists from different backgrounds talking about the same message from different perspective. I also want to thank all the people attended and support us in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All the back office team who has worked day and night to make this event successful from India, US, and different parts of the world. Thank you very much to our beloved audience also. Thank you.
Thank
Namaste.
you.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्।
This shloka means, may everyone be happy, may everyone be free from all diseases, may everyone see goodness and auspiciousness in everything, may none be unhappy or distressed. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. I am highly privileged to have this opportunity to present my gratitude to all those who have witnessed and blessed this event directly or indirectly. I believe that this is not the end, but the beginning of our journeys. The journeys towards the noble cause of removing the 14 divides rooted in human race and promoting harmonious and peaceful coexistence. Firstly, I thank the God for blessing us all. I thank European Yoga Federation, thank the Spiritual Council in Africa. I'm also very thankful for Yoga Vidya, Germany, Yoga Lam, Russia, Siddhashram, Turkey, Nidra Consciousness, France, Yoga Yogismo, South America, AAYT, Australia, World Movement for Yoga and Ayurveda, Italy, CUIDY, Italy, the World Community of Indian Culture and Traditional Disciplines, Italy. I owe my heartfelt thanks to our guest, Swami Tattwamaya Ji, Yogi Baba Adnan, Dr. Vibhuti Jha, Dr. Ashish Gadekar, Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar, Dr. Valdemar Parado, Ms. Jyoti Maprasad. I'm very thankful to our esteemed panelists, Mr. Gabriel Arazola, Ms. Sheena Patel, Mr. Stephen Ivanbom, Ms. Cobus Kosman. I'm very thankful to our cultural performers. I owe my heartfelt thanks to Team Project Self USA, Shri Rajesh Rabindranath, Madhurika Arvind, Ms. Rashmi Kashi, Dr. Prasad Akavu, Dr. Vijay Reddy, Ms. Gina Suresh, Mr. Kartik Palamalai, Mr. K.L. Alexander, Mr. Venkat Sriram Lalu, Ms. Deepthi Nair, Ms. Avneet Bad, Mr. Suresh, Mr. Devaraju, Ms. Deepa Arun. I thank Team Project Self Bharat, Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar, Dr. Shweta Tomar, Aditi Meghna Mausan Prachi, Mr. J.S. Juneja, Dr. Paramji Juneja, Rishi Vishalji Arnav, Aditya Ashwin, Rati Dharmendraji Uday, Poojaji Bhartiji, Diptiji, Amrishji, Mrinalniji, Khushbuji, Jimmyji, Mr. Sanjay Rajput, Ms. Simran Reel. I am also very grateful for our new members in the team of United Consciousness, Ms. Aishwarya, Ms. Priyanka and Mr. Prakash Tyagi. I am very much thankful to our wonderful audience and all the visible and invisible sources blessing us.